everybody else.
It looks good.
All right.
I can see your mouse
It
cursor
looks like
moving.
we've got my somebody, everybody else.
And I can see that this is streaming on YouTube. Of course, it's not in 3D.
All right.
See your mouse cursor is an option.
My okay, I can hear somebody, but I can't. It's not very echoey. I hope you can hear me clearly.
I can see that this is streaming on YouTube. Of course, it's not in 3D. Let me mute. See your mouse cursor is an option.
My okay, I can hear somebody, but I can't. It's not very.
Okay, I think that should be fixed.
You just tell me, should I start?
Go for it. I'm doing one last thing. I'm putting a link in the chat for anyone who's interested in seeing the Affinity.
Ooh.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so first off, not really a tutorial. There's plenty of those on YouTube. It's more just a demonstration to show you what Affinity can do in one or two particular instances. First off, I'm going to start with a cha-cha. I will say that in most cases, Stereo Photo Maker does a better job, but this is a tool I learned and it's pretty handy. Something called Stack, which has other uses, obviously, besides stereo. But I'm gonna go down here. Oops, I'm gonna add. I already made a mistake. Let me start over. So I'm gonna have to scroll. So I have these two pictures. This is where I was on the last meeting. What this stack does is it takes multiple pictures and aligns them, which actually Photoshop does a pretty nice job with that too. This is Affinity's approach to that. And it's set in this overall stack. I'm gonna get rid of that because in this instance, I don't need it. So I'm just gonna push these two layers to the top and delete the group. So you can see these are cha-chas, and it has a little bit of a 3D connection because I was driven to Pacific Palisades by 3D luminary Chris Cassidy, who lives in Pacific Palisades. Thankfully, his house was spared. This is not his house. This is one of his neighbors a few blocks away. So yes, the fire came scarily close to his. There's some smoke damage in his house and the smell of smoke, but his house is livable. But he drove by and I took these two pictures. I'm assuming this thing down here at the bottom is a car mirror or something because it's not moving properly. But that's the first thing I'm going to work on. And I'm sort of, I don't know what to call myself, a power user, but I use keys and I don't even know where some of these menu items are. But this is the in painting tool. And I'll just make sure so I'm just using the scroll wheel to zoom in. And so you can see that's a pretty handy tool. That's probably the reason I don't use GIMP, which is free, is for these tools. Although there's a lot of things that Affinity does that are superior to GIMP. But GIMP is pretty cool and, hard to beat free. So I'll go ahead and do that to the other one, although I'll probably end up cropping this out. So of course, Photoshop has great tools like this. It just sort of compares the scene around it to try and match. Sometimes this is pretty indistinct, so I feel like I can probably get away with it in 3D. Sometimes I'll literally cut out. Here's the cutout tool, and you can adjust the amount of feathering. And you can cut out a piece and paste it on the other so that the texture matches. I think this will probably work. I wanted to mention one thing since I'm talking about the lasso tool. One thing I like, and I don't know, when I used Photoshop, it did not do this, but this is the point to point, right? We've all used that. But if you hold down the left mouse button, it becomes a lasso. Now, I remember when I used to do that, I would have to go in Photoshop, I would have to go like this, click, 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 click. And you Photoshop use been a couple years now. Does Photoshop do that?
I don't know.
Anyway, I like it because it means that this tool has dual purposes. It can be both a freehand and all I'm doing is holding down the left mouse button. And when I first discovered that, I thought, oh, that totally makes sense. All right, so back to working on this. I'm going to crop this. It's a little wide for side by side, so I'm going to, take the sides out just so it'll look better. And I could easily fill in this bottom here with the in painting tool. It's called something else in Photoshop. I can't remember what it is, but it's not cloning, but it's similar to that. And I can see there. And here's another thing that when I'm building these things from Cha-Cha's, I realized that one of the things about Stereo Photo Maker, which we all love, is that it is a little hard to be precise when you're cropping because you can't zoom in. Unless somebody tells me maybe there's a way, that would be great. But so I like this because you can zoom in, it's obviously really easy to zoom in. So I'll apply that. And here's another thing. I don't know if Photoshop does this. I don't think it did when I used it, but I just cropped. But if I click on the cropping again, you can see that stuff is still there. So if you change your mind about the cropping, still there. Now, for the purposes of doing side by side, I find it much easier not to have those pieces there because they can get in the way because they're still there. So what I have to do is rasterize it. And that doesn't not necessarily mean anything, but it just basically kind of finalizes. When the stuff is non-destructive, I'll show you something else in just a couple seconds. So I'm just going to go in here and do this, and that finalizes the cropping. And when I hit the crop button, you can see that's now doesn't have that edge. So I have to undo if I wanted to change the cropping. Now, maybe I want to adjust the lighting on here. And I just mentioned the non-destructive. So this is, I quite often use curves. So if you can go in and you can adjust the lighting on there, brighten it up, whatever. I'm not trying to make it better. I'm just trying to show you what the tools can do. And then if you've never used this non-destructive stuff, it sits here as it says curve adjustment. So I can turn it on and off. And if I click on the graph, it's available for me to make more adjustments. So you can infinitely change that or even delete it. Now, from just experimenting with this particular picture, I discovered that the raw gave me a little better results. So before, and well, okay, we can do that now. I'm just doing it I think this is the left picture. Anyway, um, so what I'm going to do, this is the raw adjustment, and it just gives you some more controls here, like the shadow, because it's a little dark back in here. So if I go in and increase the shadow and then increase this black, maybe give it some contrast and clarity. In fact, when I did this experimenting, because we got to do this to two pictures. Well, yes and no. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Um, so one things that I like about this is you can save these, and I did. So right here is a saved version. You can see what that looks like now. You can also, I'm gonna have to move this so you can compare and you can make adjustments while you're doing that. And so, the fact that it's saved means that I can apply it to left and right eye, or I can go ahead and make it side by side, and then I can just apply this to the whole image. So I'm going to go ahead and make it side by side right now. I'm going to do, I have to move some of the zoom icons out of the way. That's why so I'm going to do this mathematically. I mean, I could just, widen this and then do it by eye, which is kind of easy. But I've started doing it this way. What, are you seeing my calculator?
No, I don't see the calculator.
Okay, well, and my calculator just popped up on my screen. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting in the width of the picture, which I just copied from Affinity. And then I'll do times 2. And then I'll copy that result. And then I can close out of the calculator. And then I can just paste it in there. And then I get an image. I got to remember to apply that. And then I can push. And then I don't even have to worry about cropping it because it's exactly right. I can see now that I couldn't see when I had the two stacked, that I got little corners here that I probably should fix. So let me go ahead and do that. So, oh, okay. So what I'm going to have to do is, yeah, these are two different pictures. So I am going to have to apply that saved raw adjustment to this. So let's go ahead and do that now. So you can see it changed that one. I don't know why, but it left us sort of a little streak here. So I'll crop that again. But I have to use my glasses to see if I did it right. Yeah, but let me do one other thing here. Um, if I hit the tab key, are you hearing a squeaking noise? Because I am.
It appears to be
Intermittently.
coming from Oleg's feed. I see his frame, his icon lighting up when the feedback starts.
Okay.
Okay, let me check
Yeah, it's probably better if everybody mutes themselves, except maybe Matt, except Matt and me. So, oh, this is another tool, again, probably exists in Photoshop, I just don't remember, but perfect for side by side. It gets rid of all the menus on the sides so I can make the image fill up my screen. And then I can look at it in 3D and see that, yeah, it's got it going on. So that's, I don't know what you need to say. I mean, this is, some photo manipulation. I did do a little experiment earlier today, adding more to the sky. Actually, I was pretty pleased with it. But I was so sure it came out looking so great that I knew if I did it again, it wouldn't be as good. And then I would get really frustrated, and I would be constantly saying, "Oh, you should have seen it earlier. It was great." I'm just sure. But should we give it a try?
Sure. If it won't
Okay.
take,
All right,
yeah, if it's
I'm gonna
not
add
too
a
much.
layer and make sure I've got a fair amount of feathering. Feathering is by pixel and not percentage. So quite often I will look at what the resolution is. So this is almost 2,000 pixels high. So having a feathering of about 72, I can be higher than that. Okay, just want to make sure it's soft. So it's soft enough that I think I can get away with just eyeballing it. In other words, not copying it. It's one of those old things you have to worry about with 3D. Um, I'm just gonna make a blue here. I don't know how to get rid of these zoom icons. So I have to just keep moving them around. Okay, so let's just make a blue. I'll do a fill. Yeah, I'm just using the keys, but they're pretty straightforward. All right, so that's a blue, and then maybe multiply. Doesn't look as, I knew I would never match what I came up with before. Just not as good. But then I did this. I used the eraser tool. I really I don't know where it is. I think it's one of these. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
And then I went, you got all these adjustments here, hardness, amount, as you're doing it, this is the opacity, has no effect on how fast you move the cursor. And especially want to keep that low. And then, make the clouds look prettier.
This is one of your secret techniques that you're showing us.
Is it? Maybe. Obviously, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to copy. So, but yeah, then I'll throw it out of focus.
Yeah.
So it looks a little better. And then, yeah, may as well do it, do the whole. And you could tell me when run out of time because, and then just this is a keystroke I use all the time. It's just a duplicate key, and then I'll just I'm holding down the shift key, which constrains it up and down, and then I'm just guessing. Then if it's actually that's kind of back there.
Yeah, it looks pretty
All
good.
right, that's not too bad. Yeah, it was definitely better before, but this is believable.
You definitely got your point across. That's a very
Yeah.
interesting
So,
technique.
just to show you that there are some really nice tools here. Like I've said over and over again, it's not meant to compete with Photoshop. Photoshop's an amazing tool. It's not, you pay for it once. Photoshop pissed me off when I used to pay for it and use it, and then they said, oh, you got to keep paying for it. I don't mind paying for the upgrade. Affinity is definitely a little slow about the upgrades. It usually takes 2-3 years before they do an upgrade, but I'm very happy with what I can do with this program. And they don't give you an upgrade price. It's not like, oh, you already own it, so it's only, an extra 20. But it's so cheap. It's under $100, so you just buy it again. And I didn't buy the first upgrade. I skipped an upgrade. That's another way to save money. So anybody have any questions or anything they need to see? Especially Tor, did this get anywhere in the vicinity of solving your problem?
I mean, it's given me some places to start. I didn't know about the stack thing, which seems to be the way you get your multi-layer object so you can work with it.
Yeah,
And
I confess I don't use the stack that often. Like I said, I usually use Stereo Photo Maker. Sometimes Stereo Photo Maker, usually Stereo Photo Maker is a little better. Sometimes this is better. You never know.
yeah, I mean, as long as we're talking about this app, um, did I see that Stack automatically aligned the images, or is that a separate step?
The stack, one of the things it does is it automatically aligns the images. It does, it studies what's in the image and tries to line it up. There's obviously a lot of guesswork involved, but it did a decent job here. I think this is okay.
Mm.
Yeah,
Steve,
yeah.
I mentioned it before, but I'm not a big fan of the Adobe subscription plan too. But if you enroll in a free BCC Berkeley City College course, and there are a couple I can recommend, you can get the complete suite, the Adobe suite, for about $99 a year, as opposed to several hundred. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing for the past few years.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, and yeah, I mean, I had the advantage of, I mean, I've been teaching for decades, and I got this stuff either cheap or at a teacher price or either free.
Right.
I'm kind of I'm past I'm past Photoshop. I'm going to stick with this.
Just wanted to throw it out there.
No.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this. You didn't. Yeah, I think you don't even attend the classes.
He's the teacher that I'm friends with is very lenient about it, and he likes it when I show up and make an appearance, and I've done it a couple times, but it is a big time commitment from where I live. So
it's Berkeley City College.
It's Berkeley City College. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's 10 minutes from me.
Yeah, so that's why I'm mentioning it, because I know several people are a lot closer than my 2-hour round trip drive.
I'm right here in town.
And I posted in the chat that Stereo Photo Maker, if I'm not mistaken, does have the zoom feature that you're looking for. In fact, there's a quick key, F2 and F3, that will zoom in and out.
Great. I figured, I just didn't know how to do it.
I mean, I know maybe 10% of Stereo Photo Maker, but yeah, it's a wonderful program.
Yeah, and I only know probably less than 10% of this program. I mean, I look at these menus and I say, I don't know what any of these look. I don't know what most of those things do. I mean, buried in here somewhere is like this. Is it Pro? But it's where you can do the macros. So everything that you do, every keystroke, including drawing with the mouse, can be recorded and repeated. It's in here somewhere.
There it is, macro.
Well, there's that, yeah, but there's another one. Anyway, I'm not going to do that now. It's a little time consuming just to set it up. once, and I don't use it often. I haven't used it in about a year, so um, it's just cool that it's there.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve. I didn't realize that you could do so much outside of Stereo Photo Maker using Affinity. Melinda, there's a comment from Melinda in the chat too. I think this is also regarding zooming and the F key scales to fit the window. Very helpful when finished zooming around.
Well, I think I did preface that saying there's probably a way to do it. I just didn't know how. So,
How many years have you used Affinity, Steve?
probably 3 years now.
So you're committed.
Yeah, that's a part of it. I mean, I don't know that I want to go back to Photoshop. Um, there's always like, what if like that teacher no longer is around, and then you're stuck with learning photo. I mean, the big commitment is not the cost of the software; it's the time you spend. And once you learn, I feel like, oh, if I took that class, it would not be for Photoshop; it'd be for Maya, because I'm having a hard time getting my head around uh, Blender. But now that Flo won the Oscar,
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to learn Blender. I don't like it. But you don't like any, I didn't like I didn't well, I can't say I didn't like Affinity. I kind of took to it. I didn't like GIMP. GIMP rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, oh, this is not good. And then
Blender,
I kept at it and I said, oh, it's not too bad. GIMP has a feature that this one doesn't have. When you set like set your values, colors, whatever, it has a button that will repeat that. This you have to kind of remember it. You have to kind of say, "Oh, I'm going to reuse this." But with GIMP, you don't have to do that. So it's kind of nice. But this has so many other features, especially I'll show you one other thing. Um, it's kind of similar to what I did at the beginning to remove the edge of the car. This is that one they call it the in-painting tool. They have the patch tool, and you can take an area, and you can. I might be in the wrong one. Let's see. This is, yeah. If I'm going to do it over here. I mean, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can't make this look like that. So you can just put some other area in there. So you have some control over it. Whereas the in painting, it's really looking around and saying, okay, I'm going to make that look as best I can. Now, I know there's a tool like this in Photoshop. And one of the things that, again, I'm not sure, but this has these controls. You can expand it and rotate it. And I don't remember that being the case. I do remember if I had like an area of color I needed to repeat, I would physically make my image wider, put that color in there so I could use this tool. And maybe they've improved it since then, but um, that's something that comes in handy. You could just make this into whatever texture you like, and it kind of blends it. You can see that you can't see the edges.
well, thank you, Steve. This has been extremely informative. Oh, I have one question. I
Yeah,
see on the website that this runs on desktops and tablets. What are you running this on a Mac? Are you running this on a tablet, on a PC?
this
What's
is a
your system?
this is a PC Windows 11. I haven't run on anything else. I have heard about on a tablet. I don't have a tablet. You know, Still looking at the 3D one, the
The Loom
Luma.
pad?
Yeah,
Well, it'll
but
still be out there for you, Steve.
haven't taken the plunge yet.
Bite the bullet. All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Does anyone have any further questions for Steve uh, about Affinity?
And yeah, anybody
I
who
have,
has if something comes up or you can start using it, feel free to reach out to me. I am very happy to help one-on-one anybody who's, wants to take the plunge and help, go help break Photoshop's monopoly. I mean, it's okay. I've actually met John Knoll. He's a really nice guy, so I don't want to. I'm not going to badmouth Photoshop.
well, don't badmouth Photoshop 1.0. It's okay to badmouth Photoshop Creative Cloud.
I can, you know, Photoshop's a great program. Adobe sucks.
There you go. Exactly. Yes. Yes. Adobe couldn't make Stereo Photo Maker. They they would add all sorts of useless stuff and charge $10 a month for it. They wouldn't be able to pull it off.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Let's give him a virtual round of applause here. There we go. Thank you, Steve. Um,